Hey everybody, Chris Miles here, your anti-financial advisor. Hey, I wanted to talk about a subject that people will ask all the time, right? Which is better? Should I be putting money in a 401k or should I invest somewhere else, like real estate or something like that? Well, guess what, guys? I decided to take it down to the numbers and just show you how that plays out, right? Here's the thing I want to share with you. I'm going to pull open this nice little spreadsheet for you. I want to do a comparison. I wanted to compare what a 401k with a match as as compared to real estate without the match, and in fact, just pulling the money out in cash. Now, here's the thing: is that when I did this comparison, I did this where uh, there's no taxes being, I wasn't taking the taxes out. So if you just took the 19,000 you're putting into your 401k with a $6,000 a year match, that's 25,000 you get in your 401k. Well, if you don't get the match, it's 19,000. I didn't take out the taxes coming out, but also you'll see on the cash flow side, I didn't take out taxes on the 401k either. So I want to make sure that at least it's going to be somewhat apples to apples here. So the one side is really easy to figure out is, the 401k, you get the match, it grows. I'm having to grow at 6.5% a year. That's the 30-year average of the S&P has been 7.5% or right about there. So I figured, hey, let's take out 1% for other administrative fees that you get from 401k or other costs that are typical. Some are more, some are a little bit less, but 1% is usually pretty conservative. 6.5% net return in the 401k is actually really good. Most people don't even get that well over the long term, right? Now, obviously, the last 10 years, people have had a lot better with the 2010s because the market was up straight, right? So that was way out of whack for average returns. But if you look at the 30-year average, if you factor in 1% fees, 6.5 is pretty good. So I wanted to make sure I was pretty, do good justice on a 401k there. So growing at 6.5%, you'll see eventually after 10 years, it grows to 359,000, almost 360. Now, the old school advisor would say, when you pull out money for retirement, you pull out 4% or whatever your balance is. The truth is that was a number based on from the 1970s. That was back when we weren't living nearly as long as we are today. I mean, money is stretching out thinner and thinner. So I figured let's be more conservative, not as conservative as 2% a year, like some people will say. I'll do 3%. I'll go right in the middle. So 3% a year you pull out. Well, 3% of 359,000 is 10,000, almost 10,800, right? So that is your cash flow. Again, I'm not taking out the taxes because you would technically be paying taxes on that 10,000 too. But I'm just saying there's the cash flow after 10 years, putting in a total with the match, 25,000 a year in your 401k. Some of you guys aren't even doing that. Some of you might be doing a little bit more, but almost everybody I've talked to, even if they're maxing out their 401k, they're not getting a whole lot more because the matches don't really add that much more when you max out your 401k. Now, contrast that with a different situation. Let's look at real estate. Now I'm just using 19,000 a year. Now, 19,000 doesn't buy a lot, but you can buy a $75,000 single family home with 20% down. That would be 15,000 bucks at about 4,000 or so closing costs, which is about right, depending on the day of the month you do it. With that, you have about 19,000. So we use all of our cash to buy our first property. Now that first property, I have here the ending mortgage balance at the end of the first year. You pay down from 60,000 down to 59,114. Your net worth, the difference between these two numbers, right, is almost 16,000. So think about this: the total equity you have is about over $10,000 less than what you have in your 401k after the first year. But cash flow is 2,400 a year or 200 bucks a month. I used real properties here to do this. Actually, the pro forma on the property was a little higher than 200 bucks a month. I brought it down, made an even number, and just made it more conservative. So it's just 200 bucks a month or 2,400 a year. Remember, you live on 3% of that 2,600. Well, I mean, you're only living on a little bit more than 750 bucks a month, or sorry, 750 bucks a year versus 2,400 a year. So already you're making more cash flow for the first property. You already see where the trajectory goes. I'm only showing 10 years, by the way, because as we keep going over time, it just gets more and more drastically different. Because remember, 2,400 compared to about, really it's like, 760 or something like that per year is roughly about a third. It's 3 times better with the real estate. Well, you'll see eventually down here, it becomes almost 5 times better because it's exponential, right? There's other returns happening beneath the surface. So anyways, first year bought first 75,000 property. Second year, same thing. Took the cash flow of the 2,400 a year, added to the 19,000, bought another one. So I got 24 left over cash to add to that 4,800. plus the 19,000, right? So now we're putting that in. Next time we buy a $100,000 home, we use $20,000 down payment to buy that. That $100,000 home is cash flowing $3,000 a year or $250 a month. Again, I was using more real numbers here for that. And again, we did the fourth year, we bought another 100,000 home, and the fifth year, and the sixth year, we did again. Of course, the leftover cash keeps growing because we're creating this income snowball, right? Now we're already up to 16,800 a year in cash flow, right? Now, year 7 is a critical year because here we sell the first 2 single family homes right here, right? These first 2 we sell off. We get about $55,000 gain on these properties here, especially as we're paying down the mortgage and there's some appreciation. Oh, by the way, appreciation I only did at 3%. That's why this year right here, you'll see it go up $2,250. Now, $275,000 properties, but it goes up $2,250. It's because the first property here gained 3%, which was $2,250, and it kind of just compounds at 3% that way. So I just kept it very, very conservative numbers. I know some properties in areas and properties I've had do way more than that. I had a property this last year that's appreciated by about 12.5% just in the last year. So, I mean, based on those numbers, I already got 4 years of appreciation in 1 year. But again, I'm not counting that. I think that's just bonus when you look at a situation like this. So anyways, so we get to that point. We sell the first 2 homes that we had bought. We sell them for a gain, and then we buy a $339,000 duplex, which is $95,000 down, right? So we're putting a down payment on this of almost $100,000 for this property. Now, and that's $95,000 down, including closing costs and that sort of thing, if that makes sense. So that's what we got. Now our cash flow goes up to $24,000 because we lost the cash flow on these other 2 properties. We lost the $4,800 a year, but we gained from that duplex. We gained a lot more. So we still got up to $24,000. Year 8, we just take a break and accumulate some more money so we can buy the duplex in year 9. So we do that again. So now the cash flow, you notice it's $1,000 a month more, or $12,000 a year. It jumps up. Now year 10, we sell these first 2, year 3 and 4, the $100,000 homes. We sell those, make a $90,000 profit on those. Buy 2 duplexes, which are $582,000 duplexes that we buy. That's the total together, right, between the 2 of them. Buy those duplexes, and that brings our cash flow up now to $49,200. So now we've got the sucker beefed up. Now, of course, these are numbers are coming about tax free, right? Especially when you take into depreciation and cost segregation and doing stuff with your writing off on your property. It's not like you're going to pay much, if at all, anything in taxes. So, but again, like I said, because I was using 19,000, we weren't taking out taxes from before. We'll just compare more apples to apples. 401k before the taxes were taken out, it's $10,778. Real estate before they were taken out, $49,200. Either way, that's almost 5 times cash flow. This is why people say, "Yeah, but I get a match. It's like 100%." No, it's not. It's not that much at all. In fact, you can make way more with that. So anyways, now I need another comparison. So I looked at, what about funds? Because I get clients that say, "All right, Chris, we get it, no 401k. Well, I could, instead of buying real estate, can I just buy into funds where they pay me a 10% return or something like that?" Well, sure, we could. So let's look at that. So I did the same thing, 19,000 a year, but now we do a fund that's at 10%. Now with these funds, when you buy into notes, there are no tax breaks. So you just pay taxes as you go. So it's getting taxed at 25% tax. I'm trying to be very conservative on the tax, of course. As that's coming out, so that's the net you get. So the 19,000 grows to 20,409 the first year. And then you put in another 19,000, it grows to 42, and another 19,000. It keeps growing and growing and growing till after year 10, again, we're making 10% a year. We're just reinvesting the money. We're not pulling the cash flow out and consuming it. We're just reinvesting this money and letting it compound at 10%. Well, you get 287,000. Now remember, that's less. That's actually less than the 401k because we got the match. It's 19,000 compared to 25,000 a year, right? And then we only had 10 years. It's harder to catch up. It would eventually catch up if we ran it for 20. But here's the key, is because if it's paying you 10% a year, that stable cash flow that's coming out, well, that's 28,760. That's just 1/10 of this number. So now you're making 28,000 a year. That's nearly 3 times the 401k number. So even if you didn't do real estate, even if you just picked a fund but the fund again is paying you better. This is why it always comes back to income and cash flow. That is the key. Then it makes it way, way better. So that's 28,000 a year. Now I still kept the 49,000 because people will say, well, should I just do a fund like that? It just seems so much easier. You're right. It is. You throw money at people and they pay you a return, right? Like, I mean, that's all you're really doing. But yes, if you can, even with property, buying properties, and you have property managers doing this, you just manage the property managers, occasionally talk to them when you need to. It's pretty boring, actually. It's not that exciting. Well, here's the thing is that's still almost double the cash flow from doing this. And remember, this 28,000 you're going to have to pay taxes on that. So really, I kind of did the numbers here. You got to make at least 20% a year to even match the kind of cash flow you get over here to do that. At least if you're going to do a fund like this kind of thing, right? Like a note fund or something. So that's that situation. Now I compare with a syndication. Now syndications are a lot of times when people pool money together to buy like an apartment complex or things like that. Now this one will do it to where you actually get to share in the profits of this property. Now the syndication, it's kind of tough. I know that you're not likely going to find somebody who put 19,000 a year into and get paid. But that's pretty much what I did is 19,000 a year goes into a syndication that their whole thing is in 5 years, they're going to pay you 100% ROI. So here I'm playing devil's advocate against doing real estate properties, right? And just doing these syndications instead, because 100% in 5 years is a really good rate of return. I know some that try to do it within 6. Sometimes they can do it within 5. It just depends. I tell people not to count on it, but it's awesome if they can make that work. And I know some people that have done that on a pretty relatively consistent basis. So within 5 or 6 years, they can usually double the return on that investment. So I have factored in and say, okay, you got 19,000 you're doing here. That's 19,000. In year 6 is going to come out. It's going to pay out. And then instead of just reinvesting in for another 5 years where you don't get to touch the money, I want to put it into a fund so we have cash flow by the time we hit year 10. So we invest that into a fund at 10%, right? So basically it's going into a fund that pays you 10%, just like the previous example I gave you. So money of the 19,000 doubles, that becomes 38,000. That's the year 1 payout, and then you invest it there. Same thing, year 2, you put in 19,000. Again, there's no returns the first 5 years because they haven't paid you the double money with principal back yet, right? They're going to pay you that 38,000 for each of those years it comes back. Well, so that means in year 6, 38,000 comes back. Year 7, 38 comes back. 3, 4, and 5. And then what I did is with that 10% fund, then reinvesting it. So now it starts compounding and growing for those next 5 years. You end up with $331,700. So now your cash flow is actually $33,000. This actually beats, by a little bit at least, this actually beats the other fund we were showing at 10%. Why? Well, better returns, right? Even though we put it back into a 10% fund and it didn't have a whole lot of time to grow, still it doesn't matter. Like it's even just blending these strategies together so you have cash flow came out with $33,000 a year. Now, once you get into that fund, you lose the tax advantages. You get better tax advantages when you're in those syndications, usually if they share the depreciation stuff, right? There might be a little bit tax on that, so it might be a little bit less than $33,000 a year or $331,000 total. But again, I'm trying to keep it really simple numbers as much as I can. So that's the $33,000 a year. Still doesn't match with the $49,000, is it? And that's the point I'm bringing up, guys. That now, granted, that even if the numbers show that real estate's the best way to go, there are still risks. There's still possibilities that you wouldn't get paid those exact returns. You might get paid less. You might end up getting paid more. Just today, I was notified of a lease that was signed, 2nd year in a row, raised rents on our renters, right? By the way, I did not actually factor in increasing rents. I kept the rents the same in that 10-year example. So really rents weren't going up at all in these scenarios. It was just flat rent. So I use that as kind of the way to offset any possible unexpected things, right? Like where there could be a renter that might not pay for 1 month, or where you might be in between renters when somebody moves out. There could be some repairs. Again, if you do due diligence up front, you kind of minimize these risks. But that's the kind of things we're doing. But this is why I want to tell people, if you're looking for growth and even some decent safety where you own and control something, it is really hard to beat doing real estate, especially it's turnkey real estate, right? Where you don't have to be touching the property. You don't have to be the one dealing with the issues. You have the property manager doing all those issues for you. You're really just the one funding it and buying these properties. You own and control it. You call the shots, but ultimately the property manager is the one that's managing your tenants. I personally don't know my tenants, and I like it that way. Not that they're not good people. I just don't want to have that headspace being taken up to do that stuff. I'd rather do things that I think are even more fun than that, like teach you guys and show you this kind of stuff. So anyways, I thought I would show you this because if you're considering saying, well, which path should I take? And every situation is different. If you've got a massive amount of money, you could probably go directly right into funds that pay 10% a year and kick out cash flow, and you could be retired. Some of you I've even talked to, you could retire like this year or in the next few years. Others, it takes some time. Some of you have very little cash to deal with. You're building up from almost zero or from a very low place, maybe less than 100,000. And you might need something like real estate to do this. And so that's why I wanted to show a situation that says, hey, you're putting away, 19,000 a year into doing real estate. And look, you can eventually potentially create a cash flow of almost 50,000 a year from doing that kind of thing. So again, nothing's guaranteed. Big disclaimer, of course, nothing's guaranteed. Not any of these numbers I ran, but I wanted to make it fair just to say, let's compare all of these and see what they really look like. So anyways, guys, I hope this was valuable for you. If you have any questions, you can email me, chris@moneyripples.com. But I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. And I hope this is valuable, and we'll talk to you later.